What's going on, space geeks and nerds? Welcome to another video. It's your host Ray. In today's video I'll be reviewing the For All Mankind Season 3 mission patches. This is a set of 15 limited edition collectible patches released to celebrate the debut of For All Mankind Season 3. And originally these were exclusively sold at the San Diego Comic-Con in 2022. However, recently they were released online for purchase by anyone. So these are flying off the shelves pretty fast from what I can tell. For those of you who are subscribed to the channel or who frequently view the channel, this is definitely a deviation from the usual content that I do, where I'd be reviewing a scale model of some sort, but instead I'll be reviewing some collectible patches. Before I begin the video, I'd like to give a few disclaimers. Obviously there's going to be spoilers, so spoiler warning: if you haven't seen the For All Mankind show, please do that before watching this video, unless you want to hear major events and how things turn out. I'd also like to say that this is going to be a pretty extensive video, so it's going to be pretty long, so find something to eat and drink, sit back, relax, and let's get this started. Before I start the review, I'd like to talk about what For All Mankind is, but assuming you already know that, since I'm going to guess most of you do, you may skip to the timestamp indicated on the screen to start the review right now. So, For All Mankind is a TV show available exclusively on Apple TV+, which explores an alternate reality where the space race between the United States and the Soviet Union never ended. Now, in our timeline, the space race did exist between the Soviet Union and the United States, and it effectively ended when the United States put the first man on the moon, which was Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin in 1969. Since then, space travel and interest in space travel effectively died down, with humankind never really venturing beyond low Earth orbit from that. Sure, we had the space shuttle and that had all of its issues, but only now are we really starting to turn our heads to go back to the moon and start investing in putting men on Mars in the distant future. So in For All Mankind, things really start to change in 1969, where the Soviet Union was actually successful in putting a man on the moon. And not only were they successful, in this show they were the first to put a man on the moon. So after that, after one significant change in a historical event, the show explores the ripple effects and all of the changes in the timeline of history that might have occurred as a result of this change. So it's pretty cool. There's now 3 seasons already. Each season has 10 episodes, so there's 30 episodes, plus extra episodes explaining the science behind various things seen in the show, and small mini episodes that connect the time jumps between each season, because between each season the show jumps 10 years into the future. So there is mini episodes that do cover the major events that happened during those 10-year periods where the show doesn't really show anything. Enough of that, let's get started with the review. I'll talk about the box really quick. The box is made out of a high-quality cardboard material. It's 9.7 centimeters lengthwise, 9.7 centimeters tall, and 4 centimeters wide. And it's pretty plain, if you will. It's pretty bland, but it also looks really cool. There's the Apple TV Plus logo, the For All Mankind logo in the NASA worm letters, and the autograph by Ronald D. Moore, so that's really nice. I'll show you guys around the box now. This is manufactured by Icon Heroes, and you can see that right back here. And that's that. The first patch in the set is the Mars 94 patch, and this is the patch that the crew of the Soviet Mars 94 mission wore. There were 5 cosmonauts on that mission, and this mission was originally going to be launched in 1996 alongside the NASA mission. However, both NASA and the Soviet space program changed their launch dates to 1994 after Helios Aerospace announced that they'd be sending a manned mission to Mars in 1994. And this is the patch that the 5 cosmonauts on that mission wore, and the mission didn't exactly succeed. It pretty much failed, since during the transit from Earth to Mars, the Mars 94 crew ignited the nuclear engines on their spacecraft for too long, and this resulted in the engines going into total meltdown. So as a result, the crew of Sojourner 1, which was the NASA mission, ended up being forced to go back and to save the crew of Mars 94. And unfortunately, the transfer of the crew didn't go as smoothly as hoped, since one of the cosmonauts on the Mars 94 crew ended up perishing during the transfer of the crew. The next patch is the patch that the crew of the NASA mission Sojourner 1 wore on their trip to Mars. And here there's a bit more detail than the Mars 94 patch. You can see the last names of all of the crew, the most notable being Kelly Baldwin, Danielle Poole, Will Tyler, I believe that's the name, and Roland Baranov. And this is the mission that went to save the crew of Mars 94 when they had to evacuate their spacecraft due to the meltdown of the nuclear engines. And during that transfer, one of the cosmonauts died, and 2 of the astronauts on this mission died as well. So, unfortunately, people did lose their lives as a result of the crew transfer. But after that, their sacrifice was not in vain, since the crew of Sojourner 1 were able to successfully pilot the Sojourner 1 spacecraft down to the Martian surface, and they were the first people on Mars. Specifically, Danielle Poole, and I forget what the cosmonaut's name was who was on the surface as well, but they made it to Mars. However, it did cost the spacecraft, since the spacecraft was severely damaged during the landing and was unable to return to Mars orbit and return to Earth. Next up is the 1994 patch for the Jamestown Lunar Base. I'm going to assume that this patch and similar variations of it were used to represent missions to the Jamestown Lunar Base in 1994. So this is what it looks like. You can see a spacecraft orbiting the moon, and of course a light emission or a star of the location of the Jamestown Lunar Base on the South Pole. So that's pretty cool. Moving down to Earth, this patch commemorates the crews that went to McMurdo Station in Antarctica, which is a NASA annex which conducts research about life and various other things in Antarctica. And Kelly Baldwin is actually stationed at this NASA annex in 1990, and the show opens with her working in Antarctica before she is then put on the NASA mission to Mars, and then she ended up going to Mars. Aside from that, not really much is known about this annex. It really doesn't contribute much to the show, but it exists, and one of the characters worked there for a while, so that's why this was included here. Here we have another Jamestown patch, this time for the year 1992. It's virtually identical to the one from 1994, except there's a bit more red, and here I'll compare the two side by side. The one on the right is the 1994, and the left is 1992. Really, the only difference is that there's more red on the 1992 one, and I believe this is the patch that Aleida Rosales wore on her mission to Mars to repair the K-32 Nerva engine, which was being tested to be put on the Sojourner 1 spacecraft. This one was used once in the show, I believe, and this one, there was really no missions in 1994 because everything was focused on Mars, so not sure why they included this one, but both are cool regardless. Going back to Mars, here we have a patch recognizing the Opportunity rover that was sent to Mars during the transition period between Season 2 and Season 3. It's not referenced in any of the episodes of the show, but I think it is referenced in one of the mini-episodes connecting Season 2 to Season 3. Aside from that, it's not really referenced that much, but it's still cool that they recognize this in a patch. Here we have an interesting patch, to say the least. I did a bit of research on Google. It wasn't very much research, it was just a quick search. And I really couldn't find any reason why this patch is here or what it means. But from what I can interpret, obviously the name Aurora is up here, there's a spacecraft orbiting the female gender sign, and there is the Earth and Mars here. So I really don't know what this patch really stands for. It's cool nonetheless, I really like it. But if any of you who are watching right now are more well informed than I am, and you know a bit more about this patch and what it means, feel free to comment that down below so other people can find out too. Another patch commemorating Mars, it's just a Mars mission patch. I'm not sure what this was really used for. It might have been the logo to commemorate the Mars space travel program in general, and it's still pretty cool nonetheless. It's this triangle shape. Here you can see a red crescent representing the curve of Mars, as well as presumably a spacecraft traveling to Mars. So it's a nice patch nonetheless. Moving back to the moon, here we have a patch commemorating the Alvarez Lunar Mining Outpost. And this was obviously used to mine helium-3, which was explained to be essential, or an essential fuel in nuclear fusion reactors. This was mostly featured in the connecting Season 2 to Season 3 episodes, but it really isn't referenced in the main episodes from the show itself. It's only known as a Helium-3 mining outpost, and that's all I really know about it, since Helium-3 became highly demanded once nuclear fusion was perfected by Deva Yesa and his business partner. I'm not sure who owns this station. I'm going to assume it's an American station. It might be something from Helios. It might be a Helios-owned site. It might be a NASA-owned site. I'm not 100% sure. Now for probably one of my favorite patches in the set, the Pathfinder Patch. This patch recognizes the second-generation space shuttle named Pathfinder, which was actually featured in Season 2, so it's kind of interesting that they left it in the Season 3 set, even though it was pretty much ignored. Pathfinder is a second-generation space shuttle that was used to transport all sorts of things. It was featured in Episode 9 and 10 of Season 2, where it was used as a test article for the new Nerva engine, and it is actually powered by a single Nerva engine to get to the moon and back. And it was used to defend Sea Dragon against the blockade imposed by the Soviet Union, so it was armed on its first mission. During the episodes that connected the time between Season 2 and Season 3, Pathfinder is explained to have a significant impact on the development of the Jamestown colony, as well as the creation of the Moon Lab space station. It was also used to launch the Thomas Paine Orbital Space Telescope, which in our timeline actually does exist, and that's the James Webb Space Telescope. So this has been a significant player in NASA's space program, and I'm really bummed out that it wasn't featured, since it is my favorite spacecraft in all of the series. Unfortunately, this shuttle did not go with a clean record, since in 1989, according to one of the connecting Season 2 and 3 episodes, there was a tragedy where 5 Moon Marines were conducting a space exercise in their Pathfinder shuttle, and the shuttle depressurized, killing all of the crew on board. So it was grounded as a result, and the remaining space shuttle fleet was evaluated to see which tasks they could complete. And after that, the story is unknown whether they were permanently grounded or if it's still in use. I really hope they were still in use, and I hope to see them more used in Season 4. Here we have another patch for Mars rover, this time the Spirit Rover, which was... this one actually did exist in real life, or it does exist in real life, and same with the other one that I showed you guys earlier. This is a patch to commemorate the mission to launch the Spirit Rover to Mars during the timeline, or during the time between Season 2 and Season 3, so that's that one. Here is a patch that commemorates the Moon Lab orbital space station that orbits around the moon, and I talked about this earlier with the Pathfinder patch. Pathfinder was responsible for the construction of this space station, and actually this station is in the works in real life, and this kind of made for a confusing situation, since the art that the For All Mankind show used was actually conceptual art for the Moon Lab, or the Lunar space station that is currently being evaluated. And as a result, even on the patch here, one of the Artemis space capsules was docked to the lab itself, or to the space station itself. So it's kind of weird, since by then in the show, NASA had already been using the space shuttles and the second generation space shuttles with the Pathfinder program and all that good stuff. So it's kind of silly that they didn't edit that out, or at least change the design. So we do see a Orion capsule there. Sorry about that. So that's kind of interesting. Our third to last patch is one that's absolutely required. This is the Helios Aerospace logo, a major player in Season 3. This is the first private entity that launched into space, and their story started by acquiring Polaris and the orbital hotel, and then converting it to a spacecraft to send it to Mars. And this is basically SpaceX with extra steps, since they were the ones who came up with methane-fueled engines, something that SpaceX started widely using when they started sending their missions to space. So it is SpaceX with a few extra steps, but once the show progresses, they do start to differentiate. Helios Aerospace was actually founded by the 2 scientists who perfected Helium-3 fusion, which was Deva Yesa and his business partner, which I forgot his name, unfortunately. The second to last patch in this set is the Arcos Lunar Fuel Depot. I'm not sure what this is for, nor who owns it. This might be a NASA this might be a NASA one, this might be Helios, and I'm not really sure what kind of fuel it houses. It might be liquid hydrogen, since that's what the Nerva engines that NASA uses runs off of, or that's what they run off of, but it could also be helium-3. I do believe it's liquid hydrogen and maybe liquid oxygen, not 100% sure, but this isn't really referenced in the show or in the Season 2 to Season 3 episodes, so it's kind of not sure why they included this one. It's still cool, though. And finally, the last patch, and certainly not least, and coming in close for second place for my favorite patches, this is the Sea Dragon patch, and it also doesn't make sense why they put this in Season 3, since Sea Dragon had most of its run during Season 2. Now, I believe Pathfinder has taken over the job that Sea Dragon once did, which was transporting large payloads to low Earth orbit, but it might still be in use during Season 3. However, we heard nothing of it during the connecting Season 2 to Season 3 episodes, and we definitely did not hear about it during Season 3. But yeah, here's the Sea Dragon patch to commemorate the giant rocket, which is absolutely absurd, but it looks really cool nonetheless. Well, it's not absurd, but just absurdly sized. It's huge. And that concludes the review. Thank you so much for watching. Apologies if I took a while or if I stuttered a lot. I'm not really good at narrating things these days. If you have any questions about any of the patches or any of the information I said, by all means feel free to drop that down below. I will answer that to the best of my abilities. And if you do know more information about patches that I didn't know too much about, I highly encourage that you comment down below so other people can be informed, as well as me, because I always like to know more about this show. Well, that concludes the video. Thank you so much for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe. Links to buy this will be in the description, as well as my Discord server, so if you'd like to talk about space, sirens, airplanes, scale models, and all that good stuff, feel free to join that. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned for rocket content, which I don't think is going to come at this point, but it might come in the future. And stay tuned for more airplane and siren content, and I'll see you guys later.